You mentioned plugins with ChatGPT. We'd be remiss not to mention the pace at which you and the team are shipping product right now just feels insane, right? Plugins, web browsing, mobile. I imagine it probably only scratches the surface too of all the potential ideas that get thrown around internally. There's so many different directions you can take a product like ChatGPT. How have you been prioritizing what to build, and like how do you see this product and the plugin ecosystem you've built evolving?
I think a lot of like the way we approach these things are first kind of trying to have a fairly high focus on kind of the models themselves. Like this is where a lot of our efforts go in. Like I think OpenAI took this approach, which is a bit different from other research labs, where we just made a really big bet on language models and just how general they would be. And this is a bet at many different levels, everything from like ensuring that most of the people within OpenAI were focused on large language models. Most of the compute we had, most of the GPUs were being spent on training these models. And that's sort of like kind of a more of a top-down decision that we made at OpenAI, that this is our bet, and we're not going to spread across too many other bets. We have a few other things in kind of parallel that we think at some point we'd kind of tie into the broader picture. But we used to have more bets. Like we used to have robotics bets. We used to have kind of bets on, say, beating world champions in Dota 2. These were all to kind of really push technology directions really, really far for us to learn to see how viable they were. But as we kind of gain more confidence in one direction, we put most of our efforts into that. And I think this has sort of continued in that the reason that we can kind of move fast with a lot of these things like browsing and our and plugins and so on is like we're building on top of these language models, and they are incredibly flexible. And at that point, if you have that like kind of platform layer of just the really flexible language models, then the only other thing you need is really smart people and like driven people. And we've been very lucky to kind of just have some incredible both researchers, engineers, and product people at OpenAI who can just have these ideas and can take them and kind of take them from the research stage all the way to product. Where I think a lot of kind of a big difference from also other kind of more research-oriented organizations or organizations that have research labs is that I think a lot of the people who are more research-focused at OpenAI are also very motivated to actually get their stuff out in the hands of users and learn from that. And I think that's how we can see a lot of these products or these features like browsing and plugins and so on. It really came through researchers having a vision of like how you can build on top of these language models and then put them out in the product. And then we try to build a product that has the flexibility where it's easy to kind of deploy that. Plugins was kind of a way to kind of unify a bunch of different things we were doing around browsing, around code interpreter, and like connecting to external APIs. We just try to look for these kind of common patterns that will enable the research teams to get their stuff out faster into the hands of users.
Yeah. I mean, one interesting area I'd be curious for your thoughts is it does feel like, over the last months, autonomous agents have become all the rage, right? And this like big next step change in like capabilities of large language models. I'm sure you guys have been thinking about that and wondering how you see that, potentially being part of the product here.
I mean, in some way, we already have it with plugins. It's just like a little mini agent that at this point, kind of you give it a task and it just connects to a number of APIs in a certain sequence to kind of carry out some task. If you want to kind of, create some recipe on a topic, right, and then you want to kind of put that on a shopping list on Instacart and so on, you can use our plugins to kind of do those things. And so it's fairly straightforward to kind of play that out towards like, well, you wanted to kind of do more complicated tasks, only check in with you when it gets the kind of model gets a bit uncertain on what it's supposed to do. And then suddenly you have a much more agent-like kind of behavior. I think, but this is also like where I think that it is really great to have this, the API aspect of our product, which enables developers to really push this much further and like explore much faster than we can. So I just think it's like incredibly inspiring to look at these things like, RGPT, Baby AGI, these kind of projects and see how like what people are doing with them. I would say like my current sense is like just with plugins, it's sort of still early. Like these things aren't working perfectly. They're a bit rough around the edges. But you can see the potential in them. Like they just need to be a little bit more robust, a little bit smarter. And we all know that this is like going to be happening over the next kind of year or two, that like we're going to have another generation of models that are going to be way smarter. And then a lot of these things will start to work. So I think what we're really optimizing for here is like, we try to really think about it. We're an AGI company. We try to look at a lot of what we're doing from the lens of like, what will this product look like when we have AGI? What does it mean? Like when you have an AI, you can actually ask it just as you would like ask a human to do something. The human would go off and do things and come back and check with you. Like it's like you hire a new employee to do like, to say, you hire an employee to code your iOS app and you give them some vague directions. They come back with questions and then go off coding. Then they show you something, you give feedback on that. It's sort of like, if we're building AGI, that's sort of probably what we're going to have in a couple of years, right? And so I think you should kind of expect the product to evolve in that direction.